Hello and welcome to the You Need to Watch This Movie podcast. In today's episode, the marvelous Max magically machinates the macabre major motion picture Good Morning Vietnam, while eager Ethan's eagle-eared electric elegy in the edifying final edit. With jubilance and chaos abound, the dearly duo travel the entire spectrum of human emotion, mere moments after host Ethan's entirely initial viewing of the film, eventually unraveling the key to the movie's greatness. Good morning, listeners! Yes, it's a very special episode. We are covering Good Morning Vietnam. And joining me today for this special episode is Max.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast, Max.
Thank you very much.
So, this one came up as a bit of a surprise to me when I asked you what movie you'd like to do.
Um,
You said Good Morning Vietnam.
Indeed.
I didn't know anything about this movie before watching it, and then I've watched it now.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I kind of got into the movie not that long ago with my family because we went and watched it, but I loved it because Robin Williams, I love him, and he's one of my biggest role models. And
Wow. So we'll get into Robin Williams. Tell me about your first time watching this movie.
first time watching this movie, like I said, wasn't that long ago. Yeah, but the first time I watched it, I guess I was really surprised at how fast he did the monologue.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we probably memorized it, but a lot of the stuff in it was improv, and I was just like, that is amazing.
That is pretty amazing. He's improvised all of this. Wait, you said you went to go see it. Where did you see it?
I didn't actually go anywhere. I just was in my basement.
You're just in your basement.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, you watch movies with your family frequently.
Yeah.
Okay, and you saw this one fairly recently, and it's captured your heart,
Indeed, yeah.
as Robin Williams tends to do. But this is not. I'd say this is definitely a Robin Williams heavy movie. He's the leading man, and he's in just about every scene.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's not a solo act in this, right? So we have Robin Williams in the leading chair,
Mhm.
but we also have Forrest Whitaker playing Edward Garlick.
Yeah.
And he might have been my favorite part of the movie. He's so entertaining.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we have. Let's get into the plot first. It sort of shocked me because not a lot happens in this movie.
Yeah, not a lot happens, but I feel that even though like there isn't much development in characters or even just the plot as a whole, I feel Robin Williams just feels a way to capture that and just spits it back out to you at 100 miles a minute.
Absolutely, he does such incredible work here. And one of the highlights of the film, I think, is its location.
Yeah.
Because all of this is clearly being shot in Vietnam. They're not cheating, they're not faking it, and it feels very authentic. When you're watching these actors sweating, and you mentioned while you're watching it how
Yeah.
hard it is just living somewhere like Vietnam.
Yeah. I personally never been to Vietnam because I travel a lot. When I went to Thailand, when you go to a place like that, when it's tropical, so much humid, so much heat, even just waking up in the morning is just a task.
Yeah, oh gosh. I went to Ottawa recently. I think I've mentioned this already on our podcast, but I went to Ottawa, and the second I walked out of the airport, I was like, oh, why is the air wet?
Yeah, it's like that, but times like 1,000. It's on a different level.
Sweating becomes pointless.
Yeah.
My grandma always complains about Phoenix, Arizona, a testament to man's stupidity. Why would you build a city somewhere where it gets to be 40 degrees during the day? But Arizonans will tell you it's dry heat.
Exactly.
And every dad ever will say, it's not the heat, it's the humidity that gets you. You know how dads sound.
Exactly.
So this movie, it looks very humid. I felt it watching the movie. I was, huh, gosh, this is agony. And they really let you sit in that for a long time.
Oh yeah.
There are a lot of long shots of just Vietnam.
Yeah.
Movie takes place in 1965. So we've got an excellent soundtrack of classic rock.
Yeah.
The Beatles would have been just around the corner here.
Yeah.
I think I spotted a single Beatles album just sitting on his desk, although it could have been a Monkees album. They all had pretty bad hair back then. You're a Beatles fan?
Um, I'm a little bit of a Beatles fan. I'm not like a diehard fan, but I know some of their songs. I can sing to most of their songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the Beatles. This movie actually, what I was feeling, especially during they have scenes of war set to Louis Armstrong's "What a Wonderful Life,"
Yeah.
which I might have been my favorite scene in the movie because it impacted me. I was sort of tearing up watching that. It reminded me of Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is a movie that has many scenes in Vietnam,
Yeah.
and they are equally comedic films. I think they're both have a definitely an after the fact look at the Vietnam War,
Yeah.
where some other movies were made after then. They were very much in it still.
Yeah.
A lot of movies about Vietnam.
I think like there's definitely a difference between Forrest Gump and this and like
Hmm.
the Vietnam part.
Yes.
And the way they portray it is very different.
Yeah.
As in like you don't get to see as much war in Good Morning Vietnam as you would in Forrest Gump,
Yes.
but it doesn't matter because Rob Williams doesn't need action. He'll be the action.
Yeah, it's true. I think we focus just as much on his face and his reaction to the bombing that happens at about the halfway point of the movie.
Yeah.
It felt very much like a two-act film. I don't know if that's how they intended it to be structured, but it seems very much at the exact halfway point. They blow up the bar, and oh, that this movie's gone from very funny to very serious very quickly.
Yeah.
I think that's an important moment. It's the most important moment in the movie. And it showcases how Robin Williams is not just a comedic actor. He's
Yeah.
also one of the most talented dramatic actors that we've ever had. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Robin Williams is an example, I think, of how comedic actors they can do comedy really well, but a lot of them, because they are so in tune with every minute detail of a performance, they can be such excellent dramatic actors.
Yeah.
Like with a single look, Robin Williams is able to change the entire film
Yeah.
and make it not just about this guy who's a radio announcer and he's really good at it, but also this is a really bad crisis situation going on in Vietnam.
Yeah. But I every time I watch this film, I'm always in awe because he takes this very sad subject and tries to make everyone experiencing it feel better.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so Robin Williams plays a guy, Cronauer,
Mr. Crono.
Mr. Cronauer. Adrian Cronauer. Adrian Cronauer he's been stationed in Greece as what is his rank in the military?
Something about the Air Force.
Well, he's in the Air Force, but he's got a specific rank. Oh no, I've just been given details about Robin Williams. Anyway, so he's a military guy. He's being sent to Vietnam to host their radio show. This is an intense job still. He's working 4 hours. He has to wake up at 5:30 to start his show at 0600 hours military time. And then he goes for 4 hours, and then he does it again later in the day at 1600 hours. He so he's this radio announcer, and they start the film on the most boring person I've ever met.
Yeah.
I want to know what the casting call looked like for that guy.
Be the most boring person.
Yes, be the worst person to listen to ever. The opposite of this podcast, dear listener. We know that we produce engaging content daily. No, not daily. Bi-weekly. Bi-weekly seems so little content from us, of course. So I decided I set it to weekly. So we'll see how long I can stick with that schedule of Friday releases.
I I think you can keep to it.
You think I could keep doing it? If
Yeah.
I record on the weekend and then I edit throughout the week,
Yeah,
I should be able to do it. I don't know if you listen to the radio anymore.
I do
It's
sometimes.
really dull. My granddad listens to the radio. He'll
Yeah.
he'll throw it on. He listens to Blue Sky, a phone-in show in Saskatchewan, which goes just about as well as you'd think. every episode calls in. I'm sorry, or any of his family members are listeners of this podcast. There sucks. Yeah, there'll be times when the host will say, "You're off your rocker again." He'll be complaining about Trudeau normally, and it's you've lost the plot again, and he'll hang up on him. God, but radio shows are going the way of the dodo.
Yeah, I think as we go on, I think they'll start to fizzle out podcasts as are coming more popular.
For podcasting though, we've got in the launching this podcast, I learned something that video podcasts are surging in popularity, whereas audio only podcasts are sort of stalling out.
Yeah.
Would have been nice to know before I committed to an audio only podcast for my first few episodes.
Well, what works works.
What works works. And speaking of what works, Robin Williams.
Yes.
He works really well in this movie.
Oh, he does. I don't think you could have cast anyone else.
Some people try to do a comedic style like Robin Williams, where you just keep doubling down and going more and more and just throwing everything you can at it, and it sucks.
Yeah.
I think the movie does a prime example of how you can't replace Robin Williams with just anyone.
Yeah. I think a close kind of runner up to Robin Williams in like this kind of style of I'm gonna be big and I don't care about what's gonna happen. I think another good example is Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, they're very different, of course.
They're very different, but
They're
the
both
way they
yeah.
do things is similar.
They both got famous for their impressions.
Yes.
And Jim Carrey's excellent at them. But Robin Williams does them in his own way that no one else can quite do it like him. Okay, we didn't even summarize the plot. So he's brought in Cronauer. He's brought in to host this radio show, and he does. And his superior officers in the military hate him. They think he's terrible. He's a destructive, unfunny force.
Yeah.
His boss seems to not understand what jokes are.
Yeah.
We've all met someone like that.
Someone who doesn't know how to take a joke and doesn't know how to give a joke.
Doesn't know how to take one, doesn't know how to deliver a joke, isn't generally that entertaining or fun to be around.
Yeah.
We all know my enemy, who will remain unnamed, anonymous. But let's just say they're a bit of an Achilles heel whenever they write something. That made this movie super relatable to me. It's just uncreative people.
Yeah. But I feel that when you can capture things that you wouldn't visualize as being creative in a movie, like you can capture it well, that's kind of like the mark of a good movie. Because you have to act like you're not acting, but you have to act like you're being angry at someone who's just doing his own crazy thing, but we have to stay in character. Doing that is complicated.
Yeah. But is there anything else about this movie that makes it your favorite?
I think it makes my favorite because I've been to countries like Vietnam. I've kind of experienced their culture and I know how they live.
Okay.
And I was always fascinated by that.
Right.
And I think that's why I was just drawn toward it.
So yeah, you have an interest in the culture of these tropical Asian countries. And do you have an interest in the history though at all?
Not so much history, but I try sometimes.
Yeah, my oldest listener said, "History? I was alive for that." That's not history. This movie is a period piece technically.
Yeah.
Because it's set in the past for them. And the movie comes out in '87. I saw a podcast with this old radio DJ. He explained why they did the good morning. Do you know why it was?
No, why?
Okay, so they would often get into their studio like a minute before they were supposed to go on air because it was right at the crack of dawn. And and they hated doing it. So they'd get into the studio right away, and they wouldn't have a record to start on the thing.
Yeah.
So they'd hold their good as they put the record on the record player to start it.
That's cool.
And the guy demonstrating this in the podcast, he held it, I checked, for a minute and 10 seconds.
That's crazy.
Max is a singer, and you know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Holding anything for that long
Yeah.
is absurd. And Robin Williams, I he does sing in this movie. He does an Ethel Merman impression.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Ethel Merman?
I don't think so, but if it's music, I've probably heard their songs.
She's a classical singer, and she sang that she was famous for her belt, which a lot of singers did not have one as powerful as she did, which was beneficial in a time before microphones.
Yeah.
And she had tons of opera hits of the time. She's the original Rose on in the musical Gypsy.
Hmm.
I love that musical. She lost all of her money.
It's not good.
Yeah, and so she re-recorded all of her greatest hits as disco and re-released all of them. And she was able to re-retire after that.
Retire.
Yeah, isn't that something? So we travel. We keep doing this cycle, and he meets this woman who has a name. Her name is mentioned in the movie. Trin has an H on the end. Does that change the pronunciation if there's who puts the H at the end of a name?
Technically, it would change it a little bit, but not very much, I don't think.
But the love interest becomes sort of secondary. That's just how he gets into teaching this class of Vietnamese people English.
Yeah.
And that's where he meets Tuan.
Yeah.
And I really liked Tuan. And they go to this bar in Vietnam where they're serving the formaldehyde, which I Googled was a real thing. And dear viewers, no, you're not viewers, dear listeners, never drink formaldehyde. You can drink casual Jekyll, but you cannot drink formaldehyde. It will kill you.
Yeah.
It will, or at the very least, it will cause you severe irritation or death. You didn't like my Jekyll and Hyde reference.
It completely went over my head, to be honest.
Formaldehyde Jekyll.
Yeah.
So Robin Williams lets Tuan in the bar, and Tuan says, "Hey, you gotta come talk to my sister." But he's asked to leave and the bar, and then it explodes, killing 2 people. And this is important. We remember that Tuan asked him to leave the bar here. So then he goes back to his radio show, and he is reporting on this bombing, which he's not allowed to do. They're going to censor it, which is one of the most fascinating parts of the movie, is that they're censoring so much information meant to be going to soldiers.
Yeah.
Which I think is the point of the movie.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, he's a radio show host for the soldiers, but I feel like the other characters in the film that wanted to take the radio show host job just weren't giving enough, and then that's why they brought Robin Williams' character on.
Yeah, it's a very and he's very good at it, of course.
Yeah.
But he talks about this bombing, and it gets him kicked off the show again. He's eventually allowed back on.
Yeah, he's allowed back on after they realize that the
lieutenant takes his job, and oh my god, is he terrible.
Yeah.
He has an okay French accent.
Mm.
He sounded like if Pepe Le Pew was played by the shark from Jaws.
Yeah.
That is to say, a robot. What am I yapping about?
I have no idea.
Okay. This is our most chaotic episode yet so far.
Yeah.
We've done 3, and we're already hitting the fan. You went to see Deadpool.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was good.
Deadpool and Wolverine released a week ago by the time you'll might be listening to this, when this episode releases, it'll have released a week ago. You thought it was fun time?
It was super funny, and if you're a Marvel nerd like me, it just all these things came in, and it was just the most hilarious movie ever.
I've been hearing mixed things about it.
I feel like a lot of people don't like it because they don't understand a lot of the backstory to the newer characters in the film. But me, I've read most of the original comics. I've watched a lot of the sub-series. I knew everything about the film almost before going into it, and then actually watching it was just awesome.
Interesting. So it's I've the main complaint I've been hearing from people online is that the plot doesn't really happen.
The plot doesn't really happen because it's all about these like paradoxical like time universes that are parallel to each other.
Spoilers.
Yeah, lots of spoilers. Um, but they go on and it's this crazy thing and they save the universe a few times.
It's Deadpool and Wolverine. What
Yeah.
could we? It's just Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds teaming up.
Yeah.
Do we get much more than that?
Um, there's a few absolutely hilarious scenes where like multiple like Deadpools show up and they're like fighting. It's
Sounds homoerotic.
eh. Anyways, you have to watch the film. It's absolutely hilarious.
So you recommended. This has been our brief detour into movie news. So, Good Morning Vietnam
Yes.
is then Robin Williams goes home. Garlic becomes the host of Good Morning Vietnam, and the movie ends with Robin Williams doing a final pre-recorded broadcast where he says "Goodbye, Vietnam," and it's really cool. It's a very fun part of the movie.
Yeah.
So let's get into the review now. This one's gonna be a great one to edit, you guys.
Good luck.
Future Ethan here. I have already cut out 19 minutes to that point of the recording. 19 minutes. Anyway, so I think the heart of the movie is Robin Williams in this studio playing these songs, these scenes of him improvising all of this radio broadcaster stuff. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah,
Like that's the center of the movie, I think.
definitely.
It wouldn't be watchable without that.
Yeah, if those scenes weren't in the movie, would it even be a movie you'd even think about watching?
No.
Let alone going to watch.
It would just this is the other thing about the movie. It's a very, very slow burn.
Oh yeah.
Like they light that candle and they let you watch it burn down.
The thing about this candle though, it's like they're putting extra chemicals in it, so it's changing different colors the whole time, and so you get all these things, but it's slow, but it's fast. It's awesome.
I'm imagining Walter White with his little spray bottles teaching kids about chemistry.
Yeah.
If you ever, you don't have to watch Breaking Bad to know this reference, dear listener. Just watch the first episode.
Yeah.
That'll get them hooked. We've already hooked people onto watching Deadpool, Breaking Bad, and Good Morning Vietnam. This is a great episode for recommendations.
Gotta have like a tally chart now.
Yeah.
Other recommendations.
So Tuan.
Yeah.
He's a character that I was sort of under my radar. He's this friend to Robin Williams throughout the movie, and I think they could have done more to build their relationship. For a slow burn of a movie as this is, I feel some of the relationships aren't getting as much attention as they could have.
Yeah. So I feel like the relationships in this movie aren't getting built as fast as we had hoped, but I think that was portrayed very well because this isn't a very large amount of time that Robin Williams' character is there. Like he's in Vietnam for about 2 weeks
They
or
said
less.
5 months.
Yeah.
He says, "My bet
Mm.
I'm in. Where are they? Say Saigon. I'm in Saigon 5 months, and he betrays me like this."
Yeah, but he does stuff in like the first like 5 weeks that makes everyone like super angry at him, and like he gets like booted off, and the explosion only happens in like the first month,
Okay.
and then soon after that he goes and off on his journey in the movie ends.
Yeah, he leaves. He's going to he's going back to home to America. So Robin Williams.
Robin Williams,
I love Robin Williams.
he is perfect.
He's perfect in this movie. And he this is I'm trying to think of a movie where I liked him more.
He does some pretty good performances, but this is like one of my most memorable ones.
Mhm.
There's a movie I watched with him not that long ago, I'd say a month ago, where he plays like this homeless guy, like this crazy homeless guy, and he's like with like the main character. Anyways, it's a really nice movie. I can't remember the name for the life of me. Um, yeah, that's a really good movie. There's Jumanji, but I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched that all the way through.
I won't lie. I as far as Robin Williams comedies, this one is not my favorite. Like I will always love Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh yeah,
I th-
Snowfire.
I think that's his sort of defining performance
Yeah,
because that is a forte of acting and just all around craftsmanship.
yeah,
But I think even in more serious roles, like Dead Poet Society, I
yeah,
think that's my favorite Robin Williams movie that leans on comedic and serious.
yeah,
And that is a movie where he also plays a bit of a rebel
yeah,
who is really well intentioned and really well liked by the people who are supposed to like him, and the people who it doesn't affect at all hate him for basically no reason other than he's having more fun than them.
yeah,
And he ends up being fired and sent away at the end of the movie.
yeah. But I think spoilers for Dead Boys Side. That's after the and then whole thing.
Yeah, but he was already on the edge there. The other professors were already not a fan of his teaching style
Yeah.
because he was encouraging the kids to think. And I think we could have spent more time with soldiers in this movie, seeing how they enjoy his show.
Well, we had a little bit of that, but it was very like wide angle. Like here's like 100 people listening to the speakers, and it wasn't very like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. It was, oh, this is so fun.
Yeah,
Like it was a very different
I,
feeling.
I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie was when he's doing a sort of live radio show to his to just the people around him in these trucks,
Yeah,
where and that inspires him to go back to his show finally.
yeah,
But that is, I think, one of the best scenes in the movie because we get to see the gears turning. We get to see his live reaction.
yeah.
Um, yeah. What's your favorite scene in the movie?
My favorite scene in the movie, I feel, is tied with just the first Good Morning Vietnam. I have like first chunk vid memorized.
Yeah.
It's just
Have you performed it before?
I haven't performed it, but I've just like in my head I've listened to it hundreds of times.
You're ready for that? You're ready for your drama class when you need
Yeah,
to whip that one out.
yeah, yeah.
I attempted to draw Robin Williams in this movie once, and I did a terrible job.
Well, you'll get there.
I yeah, one day I'll be good at art. Yeah. Speaking of terrorists, Tuan,
Yeah.
he I think is one of the most complicated characters in this movie because you don't see it. Did you see it coming when you first watched this?
When I first watched it, I did not see it at all, but you do kind of have to question how did Tuan immediately find Garlic and Robin Williams' character right after they had fallen into the bush? And I looked at it and went, "Well, that's odd." But then
I
you kind of shrug it off and go, "Well,
yeah.
yeah,
I my brain was like, huh, I wonder why he's able to get through the same territory that they were almost killed going through.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe they don't. mm, I couldn't figure it out.
Like, I think your first initial thought is, well, Tuan lives there, so he has to know his way around.
That was what I was thinking. Is Tuan
Yeah.
lives there, so even if he's going into enemy territory, they aren't gonna shoot him because he's still a Vietnamese person.
Yeah.
But then we get the reveal that he's a terrorist and
Yeah.
working with um, the communists. Anyway, back to Vietnam.
Tuan.
Tuan, and then of course Robin Williams has this confrontation with him after finding out that he's a terrorist, and that
Yeah.
is the big emotional gut punch of the movie.
Yeah, that scene is it's it's an interesting scene to perform
Mm-hmm.
because I've I've done like auditions and sometimes I will like cry as my character in the audition. And knowing how difficult that is to do
Yep.
and have both of them super talented people actually portray that and do that so well, it was crazy to me
Yep.
looking back on it and watching it for the first time.
Yep. I've just gone and looked up what awards this movie won. What can you guess? What the big one is that it won?
Um, I don't know.
They won the Robin Williams won the Oscar for Best Actor in a Leading Role.
That's not surprising.
That's not surprising at all. He's perfect in this movie.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to, even though he's considered today more of a comedic actor, he had that dramatic talent that was sort of unparalleled by a lot of people. Because
Yeah.
it's a one thing if someone can make you cry, like who's someone who's really good at making you cry. Eddie Redmayne, Meryl Streep, like they can do really serious acting roles.
Yeah.
And you've just seen Eddie Redmayne
Yeah.
live in Cabaret.
Yeah, that
What
was
was
fun.
what was that like?
It was crazy because the stage wasn't set up as a traditional stage. It was like a circular stage in the middle of the theater,
Whoa.
and like actors would like rise up from the stage because there's like a drop, like there's like a
Hmm.
pit in the middle, and there's like whoosh, Eddie Redmayne would shoot up like from a trampoline to like grab onto like these actors. It was crazy, and then people would be running off and running on. It was awesome.
Yep. And then everybody dies. I think Cabaret is actually very similar to this movie, where it starts off as sort of goofy and fun. We're just having a great old time. And then at the halfway point, they're like, death,
Yeah.
war, destruction. People are blowing up and it's sad.
Yeah.
And then the ending, oh my god, the ending to Cabaret is another one where it's like, whoa, who conceived of this? What monster to my emotions? So, and Eddie Redmayne, you say he's amazing.
Oh yeah. He's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I could see him doing comedic stuff too.
Yeah, like his role in Cabaret is is actually a more minor role,
Yeah,
but he does it so well that like every line that he says it gives you a laugh, it gives you like, "Oh,
yeah.
I remember that from this and that." And it's like every line he said in that play was awesome.
I know the original actor from Cabaret, Joel Grey, he won Best Leading Actor at the Oscars for his performance, which is a bit surprising given how the MC is a smaller role in the show.
Yeah.
It's sort of one of those things where it's about the presence you bring to the movie.
Yeah.
And we talked about Silence of the Lambs in our first episode. And Sir Anthony Hopkins, he won Best Actor for that too. And he's only in 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
But he's the first thing you think of when you think of that movie.
Yeah.
And Robin Williams is that in just about anything he's in.
Yeah.
Night at the Museum.
I've never watched that.
You've never watched? He plays Teddy Roosevelt in that movie. And when I picture Teddy Roosevelt, I don't picture the real one. I picture Robin Williams' version because he slips into that role so well.
Yeah.
They're doing. He was actually in a biopic about Teddy Roosevelt after Night at the Museum because his performance as the wax version of Teddy Roosevelt in the museum was so good they cast him as the real Theodore Roosevelt.
That is fun.
I don't think it's a full film, but I think it's a scene, several scenes. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. Yeah, and Robin Williams, you get this sense that he's having so much fun doing this.
Yeah.
Like and this is not a, let's be honest, this isn't a Good Morning Vietnam episode. This is a Robin Williams episode because he is the movie.
Yeah.
We've talked about Tuan and some of the other characters, but they are all really great in the movie. But Robin Williams carries this thing on his shoulders.
Oh yeah.
Um, like I don't think most people will have seen this movie. It's definitely one that's sort of lost in the swirl, I think.
Yeah.
And Robin Williams does remind me of someone, and that's John Candy.
Yeah.
Also taken from us too soon, mostly known as a comedic actor. But it's something like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Just a single look, and John Candy makes you cry.
Yeah.
And that's so much of what film acting is it's just one look. And you're that's all you have is this single look towards whatever it is, the camera, your love interest. And that was we got to talk about the love interest in the movie because that
Yeah.
was one of my favorite scenes or one of my favorite choices they made is that he decides that he doesn't want to be with her. It's a very I thought it was going to be very male fantasy, sort of find the girl in the place and do the love. But no, it didn't turn. He decides I can't be with you because that's not right because I'm not going to be here forever.
Yeah.
But it's I thought that was actually really well done.
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
I thought it could have been done differently, but the way it was done was good. I I I really like the scene where they're standing in line for the movie theater and they're talking about how I forget like what the exact line is, but they're talking in English but about Vietnamese things and it's 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 so like it brings you back to like this is still a place somewhere where people are going and doing stuff. There's a war. Robin Williams is doing his thing, but at the end of the day,
Yeah,
people are still living.
yeah, and I think we get to we talked about Tuan's speech at the end where he's crying,
Yeah.
and crying as an actor is a challenging thing, but I think
Yeah.
the importance of that message. He says that his family was killed by these people, that America is the villain in his story,
Yeah.
and I think that is something that so many people need to hear today.
Yeah.
There is so much war going on in the world right now.
And as a leader, you need the trust of your group.
Yeah, and that's why Robin Williams, I think, is so great in this movie because he builds up that trust with his audience pretty quickly
Yeah.
just by being
Him.
a kind, funny person himself.
Yeah.
Robin Williams is one of the best actors we've ever had.
Yeah.
And this isn't even getting into his best roles. I think his best roles definitely Mrs. Doubtfire,
Yeah.
Dead Poet Society, and
Yeah.
Good Will Hunting.
I haven't seen that one.
You have not seen Good Will Hunting.
I've seen a lot of movies, but I haven't seen all of them.
That's one to put on your list. All right, we are now at the hour of recording mark. I should be able to edit together, at least 10 seconds of podcast. So, last we rated Silence of the Lambs out of 10, and then Burlesque Dancers out of 10 for Moulin Rouge. So let's go vinyl records out of 10.
I'd say 7 3/4 vinyl records out of 10.
7 3/4. Do you want to explain yourself behind this?
I love the movie, and Robin Williams is just such a great person to play that character. No one else could have done it. He does it so well.
Mm-hmm.
The entire movie is done so well. I take off the quarter because the plot just didn't make full circle. It kind of just happened, and then
Mhm.
they left. Like
Yeah.
it was great during that time,
Yep.
but I feel like
There's a story to tell, but not
could
much.
have made it longer.
Yeah.
That's the
No,
quarter.
don't make this movie longer. That's we heard Max's complaint. Not long enough. This movie is 2 hours long.
2 hours,
It,
6 minutes.
2 hours and 6 minutes. I think Disney Plus says it's 2 hours and one because they don't count the end credits.
Hell yeah.
But it's a long movie, guys. But yeah. So you took off the quarter because it just
And then I took off the other two just because I felt that Vietnamese characters could have played a larger role.
mhm,
And I know that with Robin Williams as a person, he takes up the entire
mhm.
space. But I feel like if we kind of zoomed out overall and kind of saw everyone a little bit more,
Yep.
um, and that's why I'm saying if I were to make this movie
Mhm.
with all the same people, I'd make it a little bit longer,
Oh God.
and I would I would try and have more like culturally accurate things.
Okay. See, I agree. I would put a stronger focus on our secondary characters
Yeah.
and on the impact of this show. I might, if I were retelling the story today, if I were to make this movie, I would shift the story ahead a few years into when the Vietnam War was really going underway and people were starting to see the damage that it was causing.
Yeah.
It'd be less accurate to history, but I think that would be a more interesting story to tell.
Yeah.
And I definitely spend more time building these relationships that Robin Williams has with these characters. Because when he's calling Tuan his best friend at the end, I was not fully believing it.
But the the feeling that they had to have together was you can't be a best friend
Yep.
when your best friend was a terrorist and almost killed you 3 times.
Yeah.
You can't fully be best friends with that person. So it's like, you're my buddy. Don't kill me, please.
My best friend is like Scott. He's tried to kill me like every time I've met him
Exactly.
because he's a scorpion and I'm a frog. It's in his nature.
Yeah.
People, people in the future will understand what this means, but people now don't understand what this means. The lore will be revealed, dear listener. Oh God, I gotta get Scott on this podcast. He's never seen any movies ever. He lives under a rock. He'll be so much fun. Anyway, so for the reasons of the plot doesn't it's very slow to get started and doesn't there we don't get so much focus on that. We're really sort of tuned into the story, but there's not a lot of story being told here.
Yeah.
For some of these plot issues, I think the pacing of the movie is really good regardless. It's got good pacing regardless of its issues of plot. And some character issues, I'm going to give it a 7 final records out of 10. But I would recommend this movie to anyone who's a fan of Robin Williams.
Oh yeah.
And would we recommend it to people who aren't fans of Robin Williams?
Um, if you're not a fan of Robin Williams, why aren't you? Just to start off, like what
Yep.
what are you doing to not be a fan of Robin Williams? But it's a great movie at the end of the day, and let's say you don't like Robin Williams, it's still by some other characters it is performed very well.
Absolutely. So if you are not a fan of Robin Williams, become one, and then watch this movie.
Yeah.
So this has been the You Need to Watch This Movie podcast. And thank you, Max, so much for coming on.
Thank you for
Yes.
inviting me.
Thank you for choosing this movie. It was fascinating. My thoughts are kind of all over the place still. It was very neat getting to collect them here with you.
Yeah.
I'd never seen this movie before we got here, and I'm very glad that I've seen it now.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very
This has been the You Need to Watch This Movie podcast. Thank you so much for listening. This is episode 3 in our launch. After this, we will release new episodes every Friday. You can follow us on Instagram for previews on upcoming episodes. Be sure to tune in. The plan is for the next week, we will be covering The Princess Bride, but anything can change between then and now, so until then, keep watching movies.